Hi, I'm Kesten Rono. Thank you for being here for day 70 of A Course in Miracles. Reviewing Principle 10. The use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. The use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. We are reminded that miracles are natural expressions of love, that they are habits and should be involuntary. Consciously selected miracles can be misguided. So here again, being reminded, the use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. Why? We learned on day 1 that there is no order of difficulty in miracles. They are all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. Day 2, miracles as such do not matter. The only thing that matters is their source, which is far beyond evaluation. And day 3, miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. So the use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. We know this is true because the miracle itself does not matter. It is the source of the miracle that matters. The source of the miracle is love. And if we are playing around with the spectacle to show off, to recruit people into our ways, we are representing some kind of power dynamic again, some kind of control, some kind of arrogance, guarding the use of something that is natural for everyone to have access to. Miracles are everyone's rights, provided that they can go through a purification process. What is that? It's just the path of forgiveness that we must all walk to find more peace. That any kind of upset we have about anything in the past is not here now, and eventually our adult reasoning has to allow us the opportunity to consider, maybe I'm allowing that story that I told myself long ago or that happened to me, maybe I'm the one allowing it to stay present in my mind today. That we are trying to identify our upsets, or if we have general malaise, we can forgive ourselves. Maybe it's not solved right away, but we have the power to offer ourselves peace via peace of mind by forgiving ourselves. And if we let these things go, we are naturally lighter. This is your gift to yourself. And in discovering your light in your lightness, as you become lighter with enlightenment, in discovering your peace and happiness, you have the opportunity to share this beacon with everyone around you. If you were consciously selecting when and where miracles could be applying, it sounds more like you would be interested in asking people to focus on the spectacle itself instead of the source itself. And the source is what matters. The source is what you discovered for yourself through the path of forgiveness. Highlighting the spectacle, however we may do that, showing people magic would deflect from the miracle itself, the natural process and the opportunity to wake up to it. This is how you are arriving. And if you are trying to gain control before getting there, we'll probably fall short. We would just be creating a pattern of the past. And if once we have access to miracles, that we can see light and truth in everything around us, well, what an abandonment it would be of the new knowledge that we have gained to reduce it down to the spectacle itself. The use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. What is synonymous with misunderstanding or a lack of understanding? Confusion, discomfort, That if we are trying to organize life by wrangling the process of miracles as if we know better, we are right back to where we started before we learned what a miracle was. That we believe that we are outperforming God, that we are not provided for more fully in greater blessing than we could ever imagine by aligning yet closer with God. We do not want to go so far as to notice our own light, to recognize whatever it is, to see more in alignment with the Holy Spirit, recognizing therefore truth and perfection for what it is, and fear and illusions for what they are, even though they are of our own making. That here we enter in with humility. And if we were able to do this, and then somehow make a decision as a creator to throw it away, to focus instead on the reveal, the notoriety, the power that would come with wowing people, instead of showing them that this wow, this wonder, is a natural part of what they have access to as well. That their relationship with God is not through you, it is through your holiness. You are not the collector at the port for people to be able to see what God is. If you are shining and you are representing something very rare relative to the way that any of us have been seeing, and that has extreme value, and the people who notice it would like to invest in the direction of what your practice is, and therefore you are finding an abundance of a variety of transfers of value, and yet you already have everything you need shining in God's light. What will you do? Will you remain on the path? Will you realize that more is naturally flowing to you at all times, and that you have more, so you have more to give, and nothing we could ever gain from the idols that we have been providing our allegiance to, nothing that they could ever provide would be greater than the discovery that we would be finding within ourselves being connected to God. What else could offer us anything beyond our invulnerability, our absolute peace and freedom? The fact that we are safe and guaranteed to succeed as we are in alignment with the truth and love. I don't know. I like ice cream though. But I accept the use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. But there, everyone's right. And I'm not here to deceive. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. Love holds no grievances, and love created me like itself. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. I cannot see what I have hidden, yet I want to let it be revealed to me for my salvation and the salvation of the world. If I hold this grievance, the light of the world will be hidden from me. My grievances hide the light of the world in me. Love holds no grievances. Love created me like itself. Holiness created me holy. Kindness created me kind. Perfection created me perfect. Lesson 70. My salvation comes from me. Your salvation comes from you. Please repeat this idea one time. My salvation comes from me. All temptation is nothing more than some form of the basic temptation not to believe the idea for today. All right, anything that tempts us, my ice cream. All of it. is an evolution, well, a perceived evolution. It is all have some basic true form. The basic temptation not to believe that my salvation comes from me is the root of all temptation. That once we realize that we are our saviors of our own minds, with the power to recognize the miracle of forgiveness and to participate in this chain of undoing, of illnesses, of disease, of sickness that we have inhabited for our own selves. My salvation comes from me allows us to be the creators of what we are experiencing with our minds and how we are aligning in what we would like to be seeing in the world. My salvation comes from someone else. I cannot have salvation without X. All of these would put us in the passenger seat, and we would be victims of circumstance. Prayer is not for hoping, I don't imagine. Prayer is for gratitude. What you want is yours, was in this text before. If you have access to everything that could possibly be, then all we need share is our eternal gratitude, even if we cannot see. This allows us to have humility entering into the unknown with God rather than fear. We pray for gratitude. This puts us in direct communication with God. Imagine you are in God's position in the eternal realm of knowledge. Would he not know exactly where his son is, how he feels, what he's up to? It would be unreasonable to imagine that God, all-seeing, would not be able to simply detect this. How could this be possible in our example? Do we believe God is spying on you physically? Maybe. But maybe he doesn't need to. Why would he need to watch you from the outside if he could watch you from the inside and experience exactly what you are experiencing? Not what it looks like, but exactly what you're experiencing. Then he would have access to your mind. And if he was all-seeing, of course he would. So the mind would be the same exact experience that you are having, that everything is stored in you. So having access to inside of you would be the natural design, I would imagine. Not from the outside being curious what you are thinking. This means that you are innately, divinely connected by thought to God. That you have direct access to God's light, to an open channel of communication with him from your spiritual identity, from wherever it is that our mind is casting us into this body, if that's the way we want to imagine it. Although I like to imagine that consciousness is not in the body, but the body is in consciousness. This lens allows us to understand that everything, including ourselves, and therefore everything that we are seeing, would be viewed through our holiness once we accept that we are a mind imagining a real experience, a physical experience, and the mind imagining this space that I am speaking in all of its absolute realness, because it simply exists by being imagined. From the mind's perspective, that is how God created you. He did not mold you with hands he does not have. He imagined you existing, and so it is. And so it is. This is our connection to God. And in this diagram of sorts, God's mind, you created in God's image of everything that God is, including the opportunity to forget about God as you have the tools of perception and seeing. Therefore, you can play with illusion if you want and pretend that there is no unconditional love or no idea of absolute truth. And you can allow yourself to participate in a cycle of attacks, all serving as evidence all the time for some little switch to go off and say, hey, wait a second, am I contributing to all this? That's the first bug. This is why my salvation comes from me. Because if you can believe this idea, you are a creator. And if you cannot, you are a victim. There's just no other way around it. You are waiting for someone else to save you. You are helpless. You have outsourced the sovereignty of your own salvation, of your own consciousness. You can't actually give it away. You can pretend like you can, but then you're the very next moment, the same moment, you're still conscious. You're still seeing something. You still exist. You're still in body. And when we pass, when someone else passes and we watch, whatever it is we thought they were no longer seems complete when we look at them. Of course, their life, their consciousness, who they were when we were addressing them as what they were their whole life, who they were is suddenly returned to spirit. So there is an idea of who you really are. And all you have to do is, even if you wanted to say, I don't know, I need someone else to save me. It certainly would be convenient that we would put in no effort, but what would be worth it with no effort? Even the things that could have the greatest ease require us to accept that that is how we want them to be. Why is that? Because you are a creator. Because your salvation comes from you. You'll end up in a circular loop here. Even if you try to ignore it, eventually you'll be curious if you could feel differently. And therefore you understand innately that you do not understand what is going on because it's not being organized very well for you. You keep getting caught off guard. So all of the planning is not solving anything. Is there any other way we could feel? Maybe I don't totally understand. I am uncomfortable after all. Maybe there is something else that I need to learn. Because as I learn, I often find that I'm more comfortable. May we start to notice our discomfort. May we start to notice that some parts of it we are able to reflect on and change. May we notice that a lot of it seems to be rooted in something that happened to us, whether that past was a second ago, getting cut off on the road, or years ago by something we experienced with a family member. Whatever it is not right now. And whether we think it's small or not, and we've made it in this book thus far, we remember that no miracle is bigger or harder than another. They are all the same. We are always one step away from greater understanding. That's the power of forgiveness. By doing the most illogical thing from the frame of reference of attacks and forgiving. That is why it is so powerful. Everything that we are experiencing in this physical, we are anchoring to some idea of grievances, upsets, attacks, fear. And so saying, in spite of all this, or because of all of this, thank you for showing me. I choose to forgive, and I recognize my own power to offer myself peace. My salvation comes from me. At some point, I must realize that, okay, there's bills to pay. Okay, my family will be hungry later. Okay, I have to go to work. Okay, these are all things. Let's just accept them as they are for now. Everything else, everything else is in our own mind. Our need to eat that, our craving to watch that. all of the things that we worry about because of how they worked in the past or how they could work in the future. All of that is in our own mind. So we have significant autonomy over the opportunity to wonder if we could feel differently, just to get started. That even if we do not believe our salvation comes from ourselves, that eventually we may end up in the same exact spot, wondering, is there any way that I'm able to make a change about how I feel? And the answer is yes. All temptation is nothing more than some form of the basic temptation not to believe the idea for today, including your temptation to remain in dis-ease, including my temptation to remain in dis-ease or confusion or darkness. Salvation seems to come from anywhere except from you. So too does the source of guilt. You neither see guilt nor salvation as in your own mind and nowhere else. Okay, let's repeat that. Salvation seems to come from anywhere except from you. So we think salvation should come from somewhere else outside of us. Someone else will save us. The prince will defeat the dragon and save the princess. Or something like that. So salvation seems to come from anywhere except you. So too does the source of guilt, saying that the source of guilt seems to come from outside of us. You neither see guilt nor salvation as in your own mind and nowhere else. Okay. So we do not see salvation or guilt as emanating from our own mind, as in we do not see it coming from anywhere else. Rather, we see it coming from somewhere else than our own mind. But the book is suggesting that both salvation and guilt exist only in your own mind, that they exist nowhere else. That this is what we are not seeing, and this is what we could be seeing. When you realize that all guilt is solely an invention of your mind, and you also realize that guilt and salvation must be in the same place. In understanding this, you are saved. You're done today. If you can understand that you are creating your own guilt, remember, God does not condemn. He's created you out of love. You are condemning yourself. Therefore, you feel guilty. You believe that you are condemned not to know truth and love. That you somehow are innately in conflict with God because you believe the idea of God would be anything other than the holiest. Therefore, that would give you justification to say, God must be like you. If you are created in the image of God, then he must be sinful. And he has condemned me to this painful planet. That would be you telling God how he is, rather than listening to how God says he is. So, you have condemned yourself to believe you are in conflict with God. Now you are in a cycle of attacks. You fundamentally are guilty of something if you are living in hell, accepting this punishment. You want to be innocent. Even that here is our laws, innocent till proven guilty. So you want to return to innocence. How can you do this? You have to undo the guilt. How do you undo? You atone. What is the process of the atonement? It's an interlocking chain of forgiveness. So what must you do? Forgive yourself for carrying this guilt. Whether you were the actor or you were the one being acted upon. In any case, it is now in your mind, in your memory, in your chemical reactions, in your brain, in your behavior, and in your fears in your mind. To undo the guilt, to change your idea of required condemnation allows you the opportunity to notice the strength that comes through forgiveness. That you are empowering yourself to be different than you ever imagined and offer this blessing to whomever perpetrated you, you imagine, and yourself, that both of you are lighter because of it and closer to noticing your own light, enlightening yourself through the power of forgiveness. Now you are innocent of that guilt. And what is pure innocence? You are sinless. Now you are welcome in the realm of God, where you alone believe that you needed to be separate from it. When you realize that all guilt is solely an invention of your mind, you also realize that guilt and salvation must be in the same place. You are damning yourself to hell, and you have the opportunity to rectify it, for clarity, for purity, to see differently and to feel differently, therefore. In understanding this, you are saved. The seeming cost of accepting today's idea is this. Remember, seeming cost. Why seeming? Because true vision requires no sacrifice of anyone. It may only bless. When you are in alignment with true vision, you are seeing perfection. You know what it is. So there is no cost. It feels like we lose everything, but this is our association and our adoration with and for idols, creating an image around us of how we would like ourselves to be seen. Ironically, the fullness that we are seeking and the meaning and the purpose is within us. The seeming cost of accepting today's idea is this. It means that nothing outside yourself can save you. Nothing outside yourself can give you peace. It feels like a cost and a big risk. I can feel it. If nothing can save me, nothing can give me peace, then I'm responsible for it by myself, and I don't know how to do this. That's what I keep hearing myself tell myself. But somehow, maybe exactly what could guide me to do it, to never be worried and always be successful, is actually within me by admitting I don't know how. That I've been living in a world trying to figure out how. And the answer is even easier. It's simply to listen to an intuitive idea based in love and truth, even though everyone else in their attack-based thoughts would tell me, no, you can't do that. You think you can just be aligned with God and that you'll be provided for. Yes, because I think that it takes some acceptance, an agreement to a contract. I hesitate to call it effort, to be able to let these things go and to be curious about what's there. And if we are curious of an idea of what would the will of God be, and what would he will for us, what would be our will, to be curious about this has to take us closer to God. If we want to know what it is and understand, we have to become it. So we're willing to be different. And anyone who says, you're different, why are you being so different? The answer will simply be, because I'm curious about seeing all of these attacks a different way. And so we are on our way to noticing ourselves and supporting ourselves and realizing that we are never alone. We are connected to God, and we can simply just do this because everything we want is ours, and the truth simply is. And we are lacking nothing where we go as we undo our self-proclaimed guilt. Where we go is closer to unconditional love and support. So what do we need to be afraid of? The seeming cost of accepting today's idea means that nothing outside yourself can save you. Nothing outside yourself can give you peace. But it also means that nothing outside yourself can hurt you or disturb your peace or upset you in any way. I would imagine that's because we believe our guilt comes from within. Or more specifically, I suppose that our salvation comes from within. Either way, we are not being damned externally, and we are not being saved externally. We are making a decision to be damned or be saved internally. Nothing outside yourself can hurt you or disturb your peace or upset you in any way. Today's idea, my salvation comes from me, today's idea places you in charge of the universe. In charge of the universe. You, in charge of the universe, where you belong because of what you are. This is not a role that can be partially accepted, and you must surely begin to see that accepting it is salvation. Okay, you were saved when you realize that all guilt and salvation is in the same place, inside your mind. Now you are saved. To be saved, you must accept this. And accepting it cannot be done partially. That we are talking about being in charge and ruling with humility, right? Not consciously directing the natural flow of miracles. Being in charge of the universe. One verse. One voice. Your voice. God's voice through you. And all things wholly manifested through you, as you will it. Is it so wild of an idea to imagine that you are imagining absolutely everything? And even if you cannot understand how that would mean someone else plugs in to your equation, that's okay. You probably don't know how the internet works, and you use it every day, or your phone, or your car. It's okay if you're part of an engineering design and contributing to it, and you don't yet understand the piping. Is it so unreasonable to imagine using your imagination, which can access anything, therefore you are the only limiting factor? Is it unreasonable to imagine a scenario that you could be creating everything that you're experiencing with your own mind? And that your mind, if it has that power, is connected to God. And your mind from there is perfectly safe. Because where is it existing? It is existing within God. Do you imagine anything is ever going to hurt God? This is why in this kingdom of heaven, a kingdom of heaven, what is heaven if it's not hell? It is where perfect peace and perfect safety are. That you are casting yourself into some idea of a game that creates reality, which is where we are. I'm not saying to take this experience lightly. This is probably the most exciting experience we may have. That we are here living a physical idea, that we could be doing so from the safety, the projection of our own mind. We can certainly find pain and illusion and darkness here, but have we ever tried on finding holy, radiant light and unconditional love everywhere we go, and seeing this light as the truth in all things, granting ourselves the opportunity through our minds to accept that we are the creators of the universe, of everything that we are experiencing. Everything that we are experiencing, just us, includes everything that we believe is external. We are only responsible, let's imagine, for our own experience as our own mind. It can be a one-to-one link for now. Does that mean that someone else you are interacting with does not exist? I don't know. We make the presumption that they are like us. So let's assume that they are. and that we are all somehow responsible for ourselves. And what we experience in our lives might just be the effect of how we are charging our thoughts from our imagination, which is allowed to imagine a world separate from God. But let it be known that that would be untrue, because we are never separate from God. We are gifted with this wild experience to be creators of a universe and take our minds wherever we want to go. And ultimately, we are curious about the holiest way. Because if we are hurting by idea alone, that means we are in pain. And pain does not serve us long term to create health. Pain is attempting to get our attention that something has gone wrong. If we simply notice our pain and our fears, we can use them for what they are, signals that inform us that we are off course. And that is us reading this book right now. We are off course. Today's idea places you in charge of the universe, where you cannot be hurt, where your peace cannot be disturbed in any way. You cannot be upset. You are a mind created by God, willed by God and His imagination to exist and be able to imagine yourself. You are imagining yourself. You yourself are imagining yourself. Your salvation comes from you. You must begin to see that accepting this role fully is what salvation is. It may not, however, be clear to you why the recognition that guilt is in your own mind entails the realization that salvation is there as well. Okay. Because we can find guilt in our own mind, it means that salvation is in our own mind too. God would not have put the remedy for the sickness where it cannot help. That is the way your mind has worked, but hardly His, meaning that we believe the remedy for our sickness is outside of ourselves. And God would not grant you the opportunity to have to find a way out of your sickness. It is simply with you at all times. We believe that it must be outside of us, but that is not how God's mind works. It's just what we believed about our mind. He wants you to be healed, so He has kept the source of healing where the need for healing lies. This is so wholesome that we could be so misguided. Certainly, you can imagine a parent who's watching their child be wildly upset about something that the parent believes is no big deal, and they believe that with love. And in time, let's imagine that whatever the child is upset about, upon reflection, they laugh because they realize it was no big deal. But in that moment, it felt like the biggest thing in the world. So the parent offers patience. But they have understanding. And they know they're right there with them, that they need to offer them nothing but the opportunity to feel their feelings, because they know that just by being there in patience and love and support, that the tool for solving this issue that seems so big is that patience and love and support, that it is simply right there waiting to be noticed, and it has always been there from this loving parent. That's what God is offering you. The tool, the opportunity to just see it differently is simply right there the whole time. It's that this version of our experience being so close to it is blocking out all of the light. But it's not blocking out the parent from being right there with their child, even if the child cannot focus on that idea. It is not blocking out the idea of God fully immersing you, encompassing you in His love. Again, why could this be true? Because you are a mind in God's mind. You've gone nowhere. You just are allowed to imagine anything. You're a mind. So you can imagine yourself outside of God. And therefore, you can imagine all the things that you want to achieve outside of you because you are imagining yourself outside of God. It's very natural that anything you would want to find would be outside of you then. The irony, of course, being is that you are still within God, and therefore it is within you. You have projected consciousness outside of yourself, reality outside of yourself, but all of it is actually inside of you, and you are inside of God. He wants you to be healed. So he has kept the source of healing where you need healing. It is by pure design that you have an upset, that you may have faith that the answer to your upsetness is right next to it. If we're looking around trying to solve it, we are working too hard. We are looking externally at the illusions we are casting rather than within ourselves. If you can see yourself as an imagination, a mind, inside of God's mind, created by God with his opportunity to say, you are always welcome in love, and you can always be healed. The path to healing is forgiveness. And you say, yeah, Dad, I'm going to go do some stuff. So you run around and you get lost. But God can see you the whole time. It's your job. It's your job to find the light in you again. It's not our jobs to keep looking for some other idea or some other business or some other club, relationship to heal us. It won't. It may aid us in a way that we feel is positive, but what even then what we want to bring to the relationship, the job, the club, is our best, fullest self, our most passionate, present, excited self. Again, we would have to have power over our own mind. True power, I suppose, is a recognition that you control everything. And you still chose to recognize that by letting it go, that once you actually try to control everything, you lose it. You have tried to do just the opposite, making every attempt, however distorted and fantastic it might be, to separate healing from the sickness for which it was intended, and thus keep the sickness. You are seeing the resolution of everything outside of yourself. And that is your sickness, believing that it does not come from within you. If the sickness is within you, the opportunity to heal it is naturally in you, because God would never leave you. He is always with you. And aligning with God in truth and love is the cure to any illness. Because fundamentally, the illness is below any illness that a doctor is telling you about. Fundamentally, any illness is coming from believing that you are separate from God, assigning your salvation to someone or something outside of yourself. How does that serve you? Because you believe you can lay back and someone else will come save you. But they will never come, not in the fullness. And you will always be sacrificing something to have a relative amount of control on your life when you could have total control. Total control. And once you have it, not need it to collect anything that the total control, immoral version of you, scared version, would be excited about. That you would not need to use the spectacle for attention. You would simply exist because you would be with the truth and the unconditional. And from that lens, what could ever go wrong? What could you ever need atop that? And if you ever imagined you needed something beyond the infinite, well, you're probably poisoning your own mind with a need for control. You're guarding something again, and you're back in the cycle of attacks. Your purpose was to ensure that healing did not occur because you believed that healing was outside of yourself. God's purpose was to ensure that it did. So God's purpose is to ensure that healing would occur, that it can occur, that it did occur, because the opportunity for salvation is literally within you. All we do is look within ourselves. Today we practice realizing that God's will and ours are really the same in this. God wants us to be healed, and we do not really want to be sick because it makes us unhappy. Therefore, in accepting the idea for today, we are really in agreement with God. He does not want us to be sick. Neither do we. He wants us to be healed. So do we. We are ready for 2 longer practice periods today, each of which should last some 10 to 15 minutes. We will, however, still let you decide when to undertake them. We will follow this practice for a number of lessons, and it would again be well to decide in advance when would be a good time to lay aside for each of them, and then adhering to your own decisions as closely as possible. Another note for me to engage 2 specific times. Perhaps these don't need to be times by number on the clock. They could be time of day or time of awakening or time before sleep. I suppose it's up to us. Whatever invites ease and invites us to adhere to this practice. I suppose for me, I could announce for myself and challenge myself with conviction to say morning and night. Morning and night. Or morning and before I record tomorrow's session. Begin these practice periods by repeating the idea for today, adding a statement signifying your recognition that salvation comes from nothing outside of you. You might put it this way: my salvation comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. My salvation comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. Then devote a few minutes with your eyes closed to reviewing some of the external places where you have looked for salvation in the past, in other people, in possessions, in various situations and events, and in self-concepts that you sought to make real. Okay. Perhaps we've done this with family, religion, jobs, sports, relationships, cars, clothes, pets, money, adventures, depression, hospitals, pain. Tell yourself, recognizing that salvation is not in these concepts beyond you. Tell yourself, my salvation cannot come from any of these things. My salvation comes from me and only from me. So, my salvation comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. My salvation cannot come from any of the things I imagine. My salvation comes from me and only from me. Now we will try again to reach the light in you, which is where your salvation is. You cannot find it in the clouds that surround the light, and it is in them you have been looking for it. It is not there. It is past the clouds and in the light beyond. Remember that you will have to go through the clouds before you can reach the light. But remember also that you have never found anything in the cloud patterns you imagined that endured or that you wanted. We are playing in illusions that are blocking the true light, and our goal is to move through the clouds with gratitude. What did yesterday say? After you have thought about the importance of what you are trying to do for yourself and the world, try to settle down in perfect stillness, remembering only how much you want to reach the light in you today, now. Determined to go past the clouds, reach out and touch them in your mind. Brush them aside with your hand. Feel them resting on your cheeks and forehead and eyelids as you go through them. Go on. Clouds cannot stop you. Today we will try to reach the light in you again, because this is where your salvation is. You cannot find it in the clouds that surround the light, and it is in them you have been looking for it. It is not there. It is past the clouds and in the light beyond. Remember that you will have to go through the clouds before you can reach the light. But remember also that you have never found anything in the cloud patterns you imagined that endured or that you wanted. We have been playing with illusions. This is all the evidence we need to realize that the truth lies somewhere else. That is the power of faith and forgiveness, to move forward even though we do not see exactly how the world around us would cause that to feel reasonable. We are being irregular relative to the norm being however we have seen the world before. It is time to be a different shape, to see the world differently, to ask questions and be curious about where the answers take us, to move in the direction of love and peace and truth, not pain and attacks and fear. Since all illusions of salvation have failed you, surely you do not want to remain in the clouds, looking vainly for idols there, when you could so easily walk on into the light of real salvation. Try to pass the clouds by whatever means appeals to you. If it helps you, think of me holding your hand and leading you. And I assure you, this will be no idle fantasy. What does that mean? That if we could imagine someone taking our hand gently and guiding us effortlessly through the clouds into the area we assumed was dark and scary, and yet we were greeted with smile and bright light, natural beauty, a desire to help, peace, and we take the hand of this person and they walk us into the scariest place we've ever been, that we are allowed to ask for help as we move closer to the light, that salvation is accepting this light. If we are able to choose everything, why would God demand it? That is not the way. But we can ask for help in the name of the light. So if we can simply imagine a being guiding us into the darkness, their light reflecting off of the light on the other side, creating a cone around us, and all of a sudden the darkness doesn't seem to envelop us the same way. That we thought this would go on forever into the void, but it was entering the darkness with the idea of love in our mind that simply allowed us to walk right through it. That it was nowhere near as deep and dark and as dense as we imagined, that it was all in our mind. And from this moment on, we realize that we can be outside of the darkness. And what is there? Light. How would this be no idle fantasy if we could imagine this? The only way that I feel that it is true is if our imagination is literally how we are creating what we are experiencing. So please, ask for help. I will ask for help. For the short and frequent practice periods today, remind yourself that your salvation comes from you, and nothing but your own thoughts can hamper your progress. You are free from all external interference. You are in charge of your own salvation. You are in charge of the salvation of the world. Say then, my salvation comes from me. Nothing outside of me can hold me back. Within me is the world's salvation and my own. My salvation comes from me. That is today's idea. It cannot come from anywhere else. Nothing outside of me can hold me back. There is nothing, no one, no experience, no sudden surprise, no devastation, no trauma, no world event, no news broadcast, no phone call, nothing. There is absolutely nothing that can keep you from salvation. The only thing that can keep you from salvation is back to being a child. He made me, that someone said or did something, and you believe that it requires you to attack back or to grant them the power of having influence over your mind. This has been the trick the whole time. That once we realize that no one, nothing around us, no thing can require that we do something, we recognize that nothing can therefore stop us. We can physically be held down, but this has no bearing on us noticing our own light within us. You cannot be depressed or coerced or traumatized or beaten or starved, punished, taken advantage of, overworked. Nothing can hold you back from noticing your own light. You are free from all external interference. Nothing but your own thoughts can hamper your progress. Remind yourself that your salvation comes from you. You are in charge of your salvation. You are in charge of the salvation of the world. My salvation comes from me. It cannot come from anywhere else. Within me is the world's salvation and my own. I am Kesten Rono. I am sustained by the love of God. And my salvation comes from me. Any inconvenience, grievance, temptation, upset that I harbor is illuminating to me that the cure for my own dis-ease is right with it. Both are in me. Both are my ideas, and I am breathing life into one and ignoring the other. I am Kesten Rono, I say. You may take my hand, and we can walk together in the direction of the light. I am willing to receive help in simply noticing the darkness for what it is and recognizing something that I have been afraid to notice. Abundance, truth, and love. And if I can see it, I accept that my salvation is playing a part in the salvation of the world. As I see my light, I grow my light so you may notice your light in me. We'll try again tomorrow. Day 71. Sleep well.